Good evening, everyone, and I'd like to call this meeting to order. For roll call, all members are in attendance, and we'll take a moment for reflection and respect, please. Thank you. First item up is the confirmation of agenda. If the clerk could read the resolution, please.
Council adopts the agenda for the meeting of May 4th, 2020 as presented.
Someone to move that, please. Deputy Mayor Andrews, and seconded by Councillor Charlton. Are there any questions or comments? All those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. Are there any declarations of pecuniary interest? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to the adoption of council and committee minutes. So minutes to approve. Could you read the resolution, please?
That council approves the following minutes. A, special council virtual session held on April 20th, 2020. B, regular council virtual session held on April 20th, 2020.
Okay, someone to move the resolution. Councillor Chapman, and seconded by Councillor Oslach. Are there any questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. The next item up is the consent agenda. If you could read the resolution, please.
That items A to J of the May 4th, 2020 consent agenda be adopted as presented, with actions to be taken as noted.
Okay, someone to move it. Councillor Chapman is seconded by Councillor Ham. Are there any questions or comments? Okay, all those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. The next item up is an action item. It's our first one. It's from the clerk, 0920. Could you please read the resolution?
That report clerk 920 entitled Council Laptop Upgrade be received for information, and that council confirms the purchase of 7 Lenovo ThinkPad E595 laptops at a total cost of $6,440 plus HST, and that council approves the transfer of $3,000 from the Municipal Modernization Grant funding to offset the cost of the council laptop replacements.
Okay, someone to move this resolution. Councillor Chapman, and seconded by Councillor Charlton. Are there any questions or comments concerning this? Would the clerk just mind giving an overview to the council, please?
I have a question.
Okay, go ahead.
Your worship, to the clerk, I've got a number of things here that I've written down. Number one, are these, and you can answer them as I go, are these laptops think tanks new?
Through your worship, and to Councillor Oslach, yes, that's correct. These laptops are new.
How many gigs of RAM in each laptop?
Through your worship, we're looking at 8 gigabytes of RAM.
The hard drive, how many gigabytes in the hard drives?
Through your worship, the hard drives are solid state and they're 256 gigabytes.
I know we discussed this earlier, but I forgot to add this one. Is the processor speed equivalent to Windows 10? I mean, we don't want a slow processing speed, because in the last 2 council sessions that I've been on, we've had trouble with the Surface 2s, and then there's the think tanks in this present council. And I just think that processing speed is important, because I found that the think tanks that we had at this present council session, that when I brought up an action item, and the time I got it up on the screen, we were already to the number 3 action item. So I'm interested in the processing speed, and I know we discussed this earlier, but if you can get back to me on that, how fast are these laptops?
Through your worship, and to Councillor Oslich, I just had a moment to Google it on my phone here. And that being said, it is a brand new processor in the laptops. It's an AMD Radeon Vega 10 graphics. I will also note that prior to pricing out and selecting this specific type of laptop, we did run the question by our corporate IT support, Steve Christopher, and he endorsed the model and was able to help us in securing these, and he assured us that these would suit our needs. So we're confident that the processors on the ThinkPad E595s will be sufficient for all council related functions.
Yes, I'm quite aware of Steve. I've worked with him quite a bit in the past, and I trust his judgment. Also, one of the last things, earlier you answered this question, but I would like you to answer this question for all the other councillors. Why are not we using tablets? Because all other municipalities seem to be using tablets.
Through your worship, and to Councillor Oslich, we're in a little bit of a different situation at the town of Elmer in that we don't have in-house IT support on site all the time. So that what that causes is it's very critical that we're able to have Steve access these council units sort of at his convenience. And one of the challenges that we've run into with tablets is that they're not compatible with the offsite IT support that we require. So as a result, we've opted to, under the advice of our IT support, we've opted to select laptop units that are compatible so that they can be accessed remotely by Steve and save us money down the road.
Thank you, Josh. Mayor French, that's all I have to say. All my questions.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Oslich. Are there any further questions or comments? Councillor Chapman.
You have to turn your mic on.
Through your worship, I just want to say the new laptops work much better and very pleased.
Thank you, Councillor Chapman. Any other further questions or comments? Okay, we'll vote on it then. All those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. The next item up on the action items is from the Finance Department. It's 10-20. Could you please read the resolution?
That report, Finance 1020, entitled Draft Financial Impact Analysis COVID-19 Report, be received for information.
Okay, someone to move it? Councillor Chapman, and seconded by Councillor Charlton. Did you want to give us a brief overview, Cale?
Through you, Your Worship, I'm happy to do that. This is our first draft of some of the impact assessment for the COVID-19 pandemic. We've went through the budget line by line, but in order to do this, we've had to make a number of assumptions, and I want to make sure at the outset that Council's very clear that those assumptions are subject to change, and they can be changed for the negative or changed for the positive. Generally, I've outlined a number of the assumptions in the report, but for Council's benefit, the assumption here that is driving this is that our non-essential services that we provide for the community would be delayed in their return to normal operations as late as January 1st, 2021. That assumption is perhaps conservative, but we needed to start somewhere for this analysis. We've also been tracking our specific expenses related to the to the pandemic so far. As of the 28th of April, that amounted to $16,000. Those costs are in addition to the impact that is being put forward as far as 2020 budgeted impact. Some of those 16K would have some overlap in our existing operating budget, so that final number is yet to be determined.
Okay, thank you. Do you have
Did you
more?
want the? Yeah, sorry, Your Worship. Maybe I should, just for the benefit of listeners who haven't seen the report, the total we had determined in the report as far as the estimated impact on Town of Elmer operations was in the area of $655,000 for 2020. That's both changes to budgeted revenue and changes to budgeted expenses, which if that was a standard budget year, that would be an 11% increase in the town's levy requirements for 2020. So it's going to be a difficult year based on those assumptions. In addition, there is a shortfall in the water and sewer volumes that are contributed by the industrial users. That amount is estimated at an additional $140,000 loss in terms of our contributions to the water reserve. Finally, I just highlighted in the report some of the major areas which are impacted. Obviously, rental revenues at the EECC, building permit revenues as building and construction has more or less been halted, and potential reductions in tax collection and investment income, as well as parks costs as the staff are redeployed from the EECC into the parks. It is an additional operating cost to the town, which would not be shared by our partner in the EECC.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Yes, a lot of municipalities are really worried about the fact that it's going to have a huge impact on our budgets with all the different expenses that we have because of COVID-19. So it's quite a shocking number. We can only hope that it doesn't get to be that extreme, but we don't know at this point. Are there any questions or comments for Cale? Councillor Oslach.
Yes, Your Worship, to Cale, I don't know if this is appropriate this time, but would this affect Clarence Street reconstruction this year?
Through you, Your Worship, there's a number of things in the capital budget which aren't addressed here. This is strictly relating to operating budget items. I would have to defer that to possibly the CAO or the Director of Operations to comment, but certainly initially all things are taking longer and more difficult to get off the ground during a pandemic, Councillor Oslach, and the timing may be one of the things that impacts the capital budget as well. A number of projects, we brought you the report last meeting, a number of projects are likely are unable to be completed within the 2020 calendar year.
Thank you, Cale.
Are there any further questions or comments? Okay, all those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. The next item up is Finance 11-20. Could you please read the resolution?
That report Finance 11-20, entitled Property Tax Policy Relief Report, be received for information, and that Council directs staff to bring back a bylaw for considering option blank to amend the property tax bylaw relating to the remaining 2020 property tax installment payments due on June 30th, August 31st, and October 30th, 2020.
Okay, someone to move this?
I'll move it.
Councillor Oslach and seconded by Councillor Barber. Could you please give us an overview of that, Cale, just so everybody understands the different options?
Yes, certainly, through Your Worship. It's a slightly nuanced option A or option B. And just to make clear what the difference is, option A is indicating a deferral of the application of penalty and interest on the June 30th payment, or the June 30th installment, until August 31st. So it's not proposing a change in the due date. but it's saying that anyone who pays their June 30th tax installment prior to August 31st would not be subject to penalty. And that, in option A, only pertains to accounts who were not in arrears in 2019. And the assumption on that basis is that if you're looking to address COVID-19 related impacts on households, these are people who were not already in arrears, would benefit from some additional time to pay their taxes for their June 30th installment, and also an additional 30 days on their August 31st regular installment date as well. Option B, on the other hand, defers the penalty for the period until August 31st. However, it defers it to even those who were in arrears or accounts in arrears in 2019. So that offers the impact of the pandemic to people or residents or businesses which were already in arrears prior to the pandemic ever coming into effect. One final thing to note, Your Worship, water shutoffs relating to non-payment would be suspended during the declared municipal emergency, and penalty would continue to be applied on those accounts just for the very fact that our water and sewer reserves are in a position that they need to maintain their revenue streams. And we're suggesting to council that they consider the deferrals on taxes as their main incentive to help residents rather than potential risk on the water reserves.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Questions or comments? Because we're going to have to make a decision what option we prefer. Councillor Barber.
Councillor Barber, turn your microphone on.
Perhaps while Councillor Barber's getting his computer to work, are there other comments from someone else? Councillor Oslach.
I opt for A, because I think that anybody who didn't pay was in arrears last year should know better, and I don't think we should give them a break this year during this pandemic. I think people who pay their taxes on time, I think that we should give them a break this year. I vote for council item A.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Charlton, did you have a comment?
Yeah, through your worship, I would prefer option A myself, just to give the people a break during the COVID-19 pandemic.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Barber, are you prepared to speak now? Okay, we'll move over to Councillor Chapman. Did you have a comment? Go ahead.
Yep. I was just going to say, I agree with Councillor Oslach that people who have been paying their bill and we've come into the COVID, they deserve a break. Ones who haven't paid in the past, they're just going to take advantage of it and prolong it. I go with option A.
Okay. Deputy Mayor Andrews.
I also agree that we should go with option A, just for the reasons that the other councillors have also described.
Okay, thank you. Any other further comments? Councillor Barber, if you're having a problem with your computer, are you in favor of option A? And maybe you could just nod. At least that gives us an opportunity to see what your point of view is. You would like A? Okay. Thank you, Councillor Barber. So are we prepared then to choose option A and vote on it? Okay, so all those in favor of option A? Okay, that's carried. Thank you very much. We'll move on to our next item. It's CORP 11-20. Could you read the resolution, please?
That report, Corp 1120, entitled Cottonwood Hills Subdivision, Draft Plan Extension, be received for information, and that council directs staff to notify the County of Elgin that council for the Town of Elmer is in support of a one-year extension of the draft plan approval for Cottonwood Hills Subdivision to May 15th, 2021, and that council endorse the proposed street names of Aspen, Hickory, Mulberry, Magnolia, and Sumac to be reserved for use in the Cottonwood Hills development by Sifton Properties Limited.
Okay, someone to move that resolution? Councillor Ham, and seconded by Councillor Oslach. Are there any questions or comments concerning this?
Yes, I have one.
Councillor Chapman, first, please.
I just want to say, with the COVID and everything, they've proven that they're moving forward. They're making plans for street names, and I think that we should give them the extension.
Okay, thank you. And Councillor Oslach, did you have something to add?
Just one thing. I'm in favor of trees, so I really endorse the street names for all the trees, Magnolia and all that. I'm highly in favor of it.
Okay. Any further questions or comments about this? Councillor Charlton.
So this is a sure thing. They just need one more year before they're going to start moving dirt in the subdivision. Is that how it's going to go?
Perhaps Kale could answer that question.
Sure. Through you, Your Worship, to council. There are very few sure things in the world, but certainly right now, Sifton Properties is still continuing to do the preparation work. And one of the things that is actually holding them up is the public meeting process to complete the final zone change, to realign the zones with their updated plan. And that we propose to get to council as soon as possible in an effective manner that a public meeting can be held. And they are continuing. They have submitted their engineering work. We're reviewing that. And we're very hopeful that this is a sure thing for maybe sooner than next year. But they reserve the right to own the timeline on that. And we do our best to support them and have them ready to go as soon as they're able to.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, all those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. Next item up, any new business or matters of urgency? Okay. The next one up is readings of bylaws and proceedings thereon. So we're going to have to suspend the procedural policies. Could you read the resolution, please?
That council suspends the procedural policies to proceed with first, second, and third reading of Bylaw 1320 to appoint Anna Vandenbrink to the position of administrative support, Bylaw 1420 to appoint Chelsea Gibb to the position of special projects manager, administrative assistant, Bylaw 1520 to appoint Marianne Long to the position of human resources manager and emergency management coordinator, and Bylaw 1620 to appoint Danielle Brewer to the position of EECC/Parks coordinator.
Okay, someone to move this? Councillor Chapman, and seconded by Councillor Ham. All those in favor? And that's carried. The next item up is the actual reading of the bylaw. So could you read the resolution, please?
That council gives three readings to Bylaw 1320 to appoint Anna Vandenbrink to the position of administrative support, Bylaw 1420 to appoint Chelsea Gibb to the position of special projects manager, administrative assistant, Bylaw 1520 to appoint Marianne Long to the position of human resources manager and emergency management coordinator, and Bylaw 1620 to appoint Danielle Brewer to the position of EECC/Parks coordinator.
Okay, someone to move this? Councillor Chapman, and seconded by Deputy Mayor Andrews. Are there any questions or comments? All those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. Okay, the next item up is inquiries by members.
I have one.
Okay, go ahead, Councillor Oslach.
Yes, we haven't heard lately about this Malahide policing. It started in 2016, and last time I heard anything about this Malahide policing was last fall. Could you update us on the councillors on the pricing for Malahide?
Yes, CAO Reinhardt, would you mind answering that question, please?
Certainly, Your Worship, through you. The last I heard, the township had received the package from the police or from council through the police service board, and they were going to review that and provide some questions back potentially. That's my understanding, to the police chief. And as far as I'm aware, that has not occurred yet.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions, Councillor Oslach?
That's satisfactory.
Okay, are there any further inquiries? Okay, we'll move on to statement and committee reports. Okay, I don't see any. Okay, we'll move on to, I don't have a report this evening. There's no notice of motion. I don't think so. I haven't seen any. So we'll be moving into a meeting close to the public. So could I have the resolution, please?
That council moves into a meeting close to the public at 7:28 p.m. for the purpose of considering a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality and litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the municipality.
Okay, someone to move it. Councillor Charlton and seconded by Deputy Mayor Andrews. All those in favor? Okay, and that's carried. Thank you. So we'll just take a brief break until we get organized to get into our closed session.